Another strange UFO is caught on camera by the U.S. military. But what is it?
It's not aerodynamic. No type of aircraft is going to have that kind of shape.
We've seen alleged video of Australia's Bigfoot. Now, have we heard its chilling cry?
You can hear that, right?
Yeah, what is this?
The descriptions they gave is that it was twice as big as a person is.
Why are these unusual structures popping up all over the world?
People believe clearly there's a higher power, a higher civilization trying to talk to us.
Has an extinct species suddenly been found alive?
Could we be looking at some type of ancient permafrost species that has been frozen in time?
And did a ghost hitch a ride on a roller coaster?
You see an empty car, and then something that looks like a dark shadow just rises up.
Around the globe are videos, photos, and sounds that defy explanation.
We don't know where they come from, who made them, or how they operate.
What are they?
Some sort of bizarre mutation.
What's exciting is nobody really knows.
Extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof.
I'm Tony Harris, and as a journalist for more than 30 years, I've followed the facts where they take me. Now I'm bringing that spirit of investigation to the world's strangest sounds and images.
It's coming towards us.
We'll analyze each one with top experts.
It's a credible case, it's a credible video.
And pass a verdict on what it is.
This video was clearly faked.
The proof starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Proof is Out There. UFO videos from the U.S. military are some of the most credible out there. And when these sightings happen during active operations, it's not just a mystery. It could be a serious security threat. The United States military is on a mission over the Persian Gulf on an undisclosed date. The operation is proceeding as planned until their sensor system captures something else sharing the skies, a UFO that would make headlines. The thermographic image shows what looks like a spiky object floating in midair, with an S-shaped line, maybe a smoke trail, extending beneath it. We don't know much else about this image, but it's come to be known as the Chandelier. Investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell released the photo in January 2024.
We don't know what it is yet, but it was designated unidentified by our Department of Defense and intelligence agencies.
As the national media starts buzzing about the photo, Jeremy Corbell says there's even more to this story than a single still image.
There is video, and that video should be released to the public. But as a journalist, that's not my decision. That's the decision of the Department of Defense. If you were to watch that video, you would see the Chandelier UFO do some very unique movements, kind of like this, like a corkscrew rotating.
Still, the photo alone has drawn plenty of attention and speculation.
This image was quite popular just because of its unusual nature. Many people believe that this thing could be a weapon of some sort.
But not everyone is satisfied with that theory, especially since this isn't the only UFO of its kind.
This object, or type of object, has been seen in other places around the world.
In 2022, another spiky airborne object made news when multiple witnesses captured video of it hovering over Tlaxcala, Mexico. Even centuries ago, paintings like this one, dubbed Madonna del UFO, show strange, multi-pointed objects in the sky.
So a lot of people have seen these type of things in many different places and are still trying to figure out what they are.
These spiky UFOs look almost like fractals, a kind of geometric figure of repeating patterns. And they're more common than you'd think. Snowflakes, seashells, trees, all fractals. Is this chandelier a feat of nature, or is there another explanation? Let's let our experts decide. Given the spoked shape of the UFO, we first ask if this could be something radial, like helicopter rotors.
We're looking at an infrared shot. This is a shot where black means hot and white means cold or cooler. And so this is supposedly some hot object. If we think about how a helicopter appears on the infrared, remember, helicopters got the whirling blades. Well, those whirling blades are actually going to be cooled by the air. They're not going to actually show up very well on an infrared camera.
Instead, that black hot signature suggests that this could indeed be a weapon.
Everything that we see in this image is very consistent of a missile being filmed from the rear, and because of the high heat and intensity of the missile's propulsion system, it's producing a diffraction artifact on the camera system.
Diffraction artifacts occur when bright light hits an obstacle inside a camera. This causes the light to bend or diffract, creating a pattern that looks like a fractal. This artifact of nature colliding with technology isn't an unusual sight in military operations. For example, this airstrike in Syria produced a diffraction artifact that looks a lot like our Chandelier UFO.
Those actually line up consistently with the stabilizing support vanes of that camera system. So this is not the actual shape and size of something that's moving through the air that looks like a chandelier. We're getting that artifact based on that high energy heat source that's being photographed.
And that S-shaped trail could be the plain giveaway that this is no interstellar craft.
The contrail or smoke trail that we see there, extremely consistent with a missile as it tries to stabilize on its axis.
But hold on, the shape of that line might match a missile's smoke trail, but the color does not.
Well, there seems to be a plumy thing right here, but it looks white. That doesn't match what would be like an exhaust or smoke, because the smoke would be warm. This should have been a darker line, not a bright line, and that tells me it's not an exhaust of any kind. So this is one of those cases where the photo really doesn't tell us a story. I cannot come up with a definitive answer because it doesn't have enough information.
Our verdict? This case remains unexplained. While we agree with McMillan that a diffraction artifact is responsible for this image, D'Antonio's analysis of the exhaust makes it hard to confirm it's a missile. The military would have to release more information. We're waiting. Now, we may be the best at analyzing UFO images, but we are not the only ones doing it. The Archives for the Unexplained in Sweden has one of the world's largest collections of UFO and paranormal research. In its collection are 2 UFO photos that European researchers have been unable to explain for decades. Now it's our turn. Beneath the streets of Norrköping, Sweden, lies the Archives for the Unexplained, a 7,535 square foot library of strange phenomena. Only around 300 visitors are allowed in each year, but Chairman Klaus Svan is giving us special access.
We are trying to save for posterity files, books, pictures, films, audio files, everything connected to the unknown, with a focus on UFOs.
One of the most notable cases cataloged in the archives is this photo from the 1946 ghost rocket phenomenon. Snapped from an air surveillance tower, the photo depicts one of the hundreds of so-called ghost rockets reported that year. Despite an official investigation, those sightings were never explained, and strange aerial sights in Sweden would continue for years to come. In fact, French researcher Baptiste Friscore says one of the archive's most extraordinary photos was snapped by an artist in 1956 on the Swedish island of Moorhair.
He was with his friend on a fishing trip. He was about to take a photograph of his friend that just caught a fish. He spots a shining object.
The photo shows a white, curved object tucked behind a hill and surrounded by brush.
There was a special office at the Swedish military during the 1950s, and they spent so much time trying to figure out what this Marshare picture really showed. And they didn't really do that. It's still a mystery.
Another one of the archive's most mysterious photos was taken nearly 50 years later, in 2003, near the town of Moskojärvi.
At 1 a.m., Mats Josefsson and Roger Johansson are in front of their house. They look into the distance and see a huge light above a mountain near their lake.
Roger pulls out a phone and snaps this photo. It appears to be a bright white orb flanked by green and yellowish wings of light.
I could see on Swedish military radar, corresponding very, very well with the story from the two witnesses. I think it's very, very seldom you can see two witnesses, a great picture, and a radar return.
Two photos taken half a century apart, one on film and one on a cell phone. That's a remarkable testament to the longevity of the UFO phenomenon. But what did they really document? Let's see what our experts have to say. We first ask whether the Moskojärvi UFO could be something as simple as a helicopter searchlight.
Based on the photograph, it could be anything bright. But then we have to add in the eyewitness testimony. They would hear the rotor of a helicopter. So I would assume that the eyewitnesses would have known if this was a helicopter.
But if it wasn't a helicopter searching for someone, maybe it should have been.
One of the more disheartening things here is perhaps this was a signal flare from somebody who was in trouble, somebody who has gotten lost in the wilderness.
Thankfully, the archives already considered this possibility.
We checked, of course, if there were anyone in need of help, if there are any flares up in the air. There were nothing like that. There were no ambulance aircraft in the air. There were no calls to the police.
So, what about the Moorhair photo? The Swedish military concluded it was a bank of fog, but that's not consistent with the eyewitness account.
When I talked to him a couple of years before he passed away, he said it was traveling so fast, and it didn't really look like a fog. So he couldn't really explain it in any mundane way.
Could it be another natural phenomenon? One that remains unexplained in its own right. Earth lights.
It's been theorized these balls of plasma arise from the Earth and ascend in the air. These have been captured on video. There's been scientific studies behind them, though no conclusive explanation for how these plasma balls would be formed or if, in fact, they are plasma balls.
However, we're not ready to make that call on the basis of one blurry photo alone.
Unfortunately, there's just not enough information from the eyewitness accounts or the photographs to conclusively say what either of these objects are. So these are incidents that are going to remain unexplained probably forever.
Our verdict, unexplained phenomena. While these are some fascinating photos, we have to agree with our experts that there isn't enough information here to make a definitive conclusion. All we can say is these photos from the archives for the unexplained belong there. When you think about places that might be haunted, what's the first thing that comes to mind? An old house, maybe a cemetery. How about an amusement park? That's right. After watching this next video, you will never ride a roller coaster the same way again. September 2021, Mazatlan, Mexico. Gustavo Alcaraz takes his little brother Giovanni to an annual fair, recording the excitement as the roller coaster ride they're on starts to twist and turn. But when they later replay the video, they spot something bizarre. The ride is nearly empty, and no one can be seen in the back. But halfway through the ride, a dark figure suddenly appears in the rear car. Let's see that again, close up and slow down. One moment, there's no one in the last car. Then, a ghostly figure seemingly materializes out of nowhere. The silhouette remains seated for a split second before vanishing again. Another macabre twist to this story? When Gustavo's video goes viral in November, some folks link it to a popular Mexican celebration that takes place around the same time, the Day of the Dead.
It's called Dia de los Muertos. And the idea is that your ancestors can come back to visit, usually at the place that they are laid to rest, and the spirits would know that this is where you go in between worlds.
As ghost sightings go, this one could fall in the category of phantom travelers, ghosts who haunt specific roads and modes of transportation after a connected tragedy. And that's relevant here.
Near to this particular amusement park in Mexico, there's another amusement park where several years ago there was an accident where the final car on a roller coaster derailed and 2 young men fell down 33 feet and died. I wonder if there's a connection between this specter and those young men.
There are also those who wonder whether so-called ghosts like this are actually travelers visiting from a parallel universe. If that sounds too out there, a 2020 study theorized a multiverse in which parallel universes exist like bubbles in a pot of boiling water, colliding and imprinting on one another. It's enough to question whether traveling between these colliding parallel universes is possible.
Could this be a clear example of a traveler that is hitching a ride somewhere, perhaps within this world?
Mexico's Day of the Dead is ancient, dating back to an Aztec celebration of the Queen of the Underworld. But is the figure in our roller coaster video really a spirit summoned back to the world of the living by this timeless festival? Let's ask our experts. Could this be a living being from a parallel universe?
In physics, we exist in multiple universes at the same time. Get used to it.
But hopscotching from one to another, not so fast.
At the present time, physics as we know it do not allow for large objects like us to move freely between these parallel universes. Because the energy to travel between universes is far beyond anything that we humans can muster on our planet Earth. It would take the energy of basically the Big Bang in order to travel between these parallel universes.
So is the rider a spirit from beyond the grave? Skeptics think not.
I think this is actually a real person in this car. I think it's a carnival worker who's really used to this ride, and they were able to just hop on at some point in the ride when it was slowing down, perhaps to go up one of the risers. You know, we see carnival workers do quite amazing things on their rides sometimes.
Like we see in this video from Korea, where a carnival worker performs a jaw-dropping stunt on a moving ride.
This isn't something that you could do at a roller coaster like at Six Flags. Normally you're kind of strapped into a roller coaster and you can't really move around. Here it's a kids roller coaster where they're just kind of sitting on seats with maybe a seat belt, so it's a lot easier to pull off this type of prank.
Our verdict, carnival worker. We agree with Mick West that the figure here is most likely a person who hopped on, then hopped off the ride. We just don't see that on camera. There are plenty of reasons to be terrified on a roller coaster, but in this case, we can cross ghosts off the list. So, we've seen plenty of images of strange creatures out of Australia on this show. And we're not just talking about the duck-billed platypus. Now we have a strange sound to investigate. And this could be even more shocking. Let's head down under. It's April of 2023 in the small town of Bonnie Doon in Victoria, Australia. Truck driver Jay Brooks and his family have decided to sell their old cabin in a caravan park. They've just finished clearing it out when they hear this.
What the is that?
It's a loud, whistling howl, seemingly coming from everywhere. The family records the bizarre sound while wondering to themselves what it could be.
You can hear that, right?
Yeah, what is it?
I've got no idea.
It continues for about 2 minutes and then fades away. Eerie, right? Many on the internet were stumped by this sound, but some have pointed to the legendary Australian yowie.
The yowie is an Australian Bigfoot. That's the simplest way you can put it. Reports of the yowie go back several hundred years with a variety of descriptions. Some people describe them as marsupials, some people describe them as primates. But when you average it all out, most of the time the reports kind of look basically like a North American Sasquatch of some sort.
The yowie legend was a fixture amongst the indigenous peoples of Australia. And when colonizers arrived, they claimed to see it too.
One of the earliest recorded observations of a yowie came in the 1780s outside of Sydney. A group of these European settlers went off for a hunting trip, and on the way back, they saw this thing standing up on like an edge of a cliff or a precipice, just watching them. The descriptions they gave is that it was twice as big as a person is.
And sightings continue to this day.
Just a few years ago, a group got really amazing thermal footage of a yowie, and it is fantastic. You can see the shape of the head as being very inhuman. You can see that it's a lot larger than the people who were there at the time. It is actually astounding footage of a yowie in its natural environment.
We examined that thermal yowie footage on a previous episode, but couldn't come to a definitive conclusion on what it was. So perhaps the yowie really is out there somewhere down under. Did this video capture its calls on tape? Let's call in our experts. Our first step was to tackle the yowie theory by running an audio comparison between these howls out of Bonnie Doon
You can hear that, Ron.
Yeah, what is it?
and a recording of what the Bigfoot community believes to be a genuine Sasquatch screech. It's called the Ohio Howls.
So the Ohio howls have a sound that has a definite pitch to it that is going up and down, more of a ooh effect where we get a higher frequency and a lower frequency. The Bonnie Doon recording has more of a broadband noise quality to it. So I'm not detecting anything like the Ohio howls in that recording.
So what are we hearing? After further examination, a clue emerges.
One of the things that I had noticed was that there was a presence of little clicks in the audio at several places that have a very specific rhythm.
You can hear that, Ron?
Yeah, what is it?
I've got no idea.
That clicking rhythm is reminiscent of a recording made a few years back and far, far away.
In 2005, the Cassini mission that NASA sent to the planet Saturn was studying some of the characteristics of the electromagnetic environment around the planet. They then converted those electromagnetic measurements into sound to visualize what those measurements would tell us. This Cassini recording has this same whoosh sound, and lo and behold has these click sounds present in that recording. I can match up the Cassini recording with the Bonnie Doon recording. The Bonnie Doon video incorporated this sound from the Cassini mission, and it was not recorded at that scene.
Our verdict? We're calling this one a good old-fashioned, family-operated hoax. The yowie might be real, but this recording is not. Better luck next time, mate. A few years back, we did a story on the Utah monolith, a structure that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. In the years since, several similar objects have mysteriously turned up and just as soon vanished. So when one recently appeared outside Las Vegas, we decided it was time to head to Sin City. June 17th, 2024. The Las Vegas Police Department is on a rescue mission in the middle of the desert when they discover something completely unexpected. A 6-foot, 5-inch gleaming monolith is standing out in the middle of nowhere. It seems otherworldly, with reflective surfaces that mirror the vast desert landscape. Most puzzling of all, there's no trace of just how this structure got here. This object instantly invites comparison to an equally mysterious structure discovered in Utah in 2020.
It needs to be mentioned that the monolith in Utah was never able to be successfully collected and tested in a lab, and it just kind of vanished. And then monoliths started showing up around the world. Another monolith was discovered just outside of a city in Romania. And then another monolith was found on top of Pine Mountain in Atascadero, California.
There's a theory that the Las Vegas monolith, at least, might be a cutting-edge piece of tech.
In 2022 and 2023, around Salt Lake City in Utah, random antennae began showing up all around these deserted parts of the nearby countryside. And as it turns out, these high-tech pieces of equipment were actually mining cryptocurrency. Is this what we're seeing here? Some kind of cryptocurrency mine operation starting up?
Crypto mining is a process used to verify cryptocurrency transactions by solving complex mathematical puzzles. Solving those puzzles takes a lot of computing power and can reward miners with new crypto coins. To help, some folks use specialized antennas, and rather than placing them in crowded areas where their signals can be obstructed, they place them in isolated places, like a desert. Another theory? Maybe this is a different kind of communication tech, one that's meant to reach extraterrestrial life.
Over half of the American population believes that somewhere out there, there is intelligent extraterrestrial life. Could it be that these monoliths are being built by humans for aliens, as a sort of signal to the extraterrestrials out there, or a sort of beacon for contact?
Investigators have figured out who built at least one of the monoliths that popped up before this latest discovery. The one in Atascadero, California, was just a sculpture produced by a team of metal artists. There's no telling who or what built the Las Vegas monolith, at least until we ask our experts. What did the Las Vegas police learn after discovering the object?
The police came and hauled it off, and then they dismantled it to see what was inside of it. We do know that it was made of rolled sheet metal and that the base itself was rebar and cement. But I find it very curious why they felt the need to remove it. What was the issue that it was causing that it couldn't stay there until it fell apart?
Sheet metal, rebar, and cement. Well, there goes the alien tech theory, not to mention the suggestion that this might be a crypto mining antenna.
That requires energy. In other words, you cannot violate the laws of physics. The laws of physics would require you to have an energy supply of some sort, but we see no power supply. We see no evidence of a battery. We've taken these things apart, and there's nothing high-tech to it. They're just empty boxes in the middle of the desert.
Well, they could still be more than that. Turns out, what we're seeing here is in fact a work of art, as were the monoliths that preceded it.
They're very unique. I think that they are made specifically to invoke a feeling of specialness to the person who's seeing them. When you look at them, you can see your own reflection, and I think that's part of why they're made of the materials that they are, that they're meant for inner reflection in this remote, beautiful location.
But the question of who's behind the Vegas monolith remains a mystery.
I found so many claims that it was impossible for me to work through them. The claims are all conflicting, and so I personally don't have any idea who would be responsible.
Our verdict? Art installation. We agree with Kathy Strain that this is most likely a work of art. It remains to be seen whether the monolithic trend continues. So if you spot one anytime soon, take a moment to reflect, then let us know about it. We've all heard the old adage, where there's smoke, there's fire. But in this next story, where there's smoke, there may be an advanced civilization. Confused? Let's take a look. March 19th, 2024, Biloxi, Mississippi. A man is out on his front yard in the evening when he spots something strange emanating from the ground. Baffled, he pulls out his camera and records this.
Please tell me what the hell this is. I don't have a clue, and I don't want to wake up dead in the morning.
A concentrated plume of smoke is spurting out from a hole in his yard. Let's take another look. The thick white mist spews out in quick puffs every few seconds before dissipating into the night as the man provides key details.
It just keeps coming out the ground and stopping and coming, kind of like it pulsates a little bit, but it ain't hot, it ain't cold, it ain't like steam or nothing, it ain't got no smell to it, it's just there, and it's just coming out of this one spot. I don't know.
Could this video be related to another subterranean event from Biloxi's history?
In 1998, in August, a gasoline tank that was stored underground began to leak, and fires began to rage. Some people believe that, perhaps this occurred, and we are still seeing remnants of little pockets of gasoline that are still catching fire.
But could an underground fire continue raging nearly 30 years after it initially sparked?
There's actually precedent. In Centralia, Pennsylvania in 1962, a coal seam caught fire and essentially created a very similar situation where you had a large underground fire burning and smoke billowing out of the ground. It should be noted that that fire is still burning to this day and has never been put out.
Another theory points to something out of science fiction.
In 1934, a mining engineer named G. Warren Shufelt was taken to see a Hopi Indian chief by the name of Greenleaf, who essentially told him a story that around 5,000 years ago, these tunnels and these labyrinths were built by an ancient species of lizard people who dwelled under what is modern-day Los Angeles and lived along the California coast.
To be clear, these lizard people aren't reptilian monsters, but advanced human beings who allegedly revered lizards and built subterranean strongholds. Shufelt even got a permit to dig under the heart of the city and search for these tunnels. There's no record that he found them, but speculation about an underground civilization beneath Los Angeles continued well after his efforts to dig up evidence.
When there's mysterious smoke coming from the ground, it's really hard not to investigate. And some people believe that this could be proof of a civilization living right below our feet.
G. Warren Shufelt claimed to have used a radio X-ray machine to locate the rumored tunnels and even deposits of gold under Los Angeles. There's no evidence to verify what he supposedly unearthed. But can we dig up what's happening under this lawn in Biloxi? Let's ask the experts. Could even so-called advanced humans survive beneath the Biloxi suburbs?
If there was a large population of people living underneath us, they would need some sort of food or prey to sustain that population. And I think at this point we would have picked up on it or seen something of the sort because they'd probably have to come to the surface to eat.
So that seems to cancel the tunnel theory. And without tunnels, can there even be a fire?
In order to have a fire, you have to have oxygen. You have to have a supply of air coming in, and that would then energize the flames to keep on going. Here, it's all underground. If it's a fire of some sort, where's the air coming from? We don't know. No one's dug into the ground. No one's found the source of this.
The man in the video mentioned that the smoke was odorless and neither hot nor cold. That also rules out the gasoline theory, but there might be another source.
Let's say you have gophers that really chew up your backyard and are real pests. What can you do? One possibility is you could put a smoke bomb down there to flush them out.
So is this gopher gas sneaking out through a burrow? Not quite.
If it was caused by a smoke bomb of some sort, there could be remnants of a smell, and there was no smell detected. So we simply don't have enough data to make a conclusive judgment. It's very hard to rule out any possibility.
Our verdict, unexplained. Our analysis is constrained by a lack of hard data. For now, there's no trace of a fire or a subterranean civilization here, but we'll keep our ear and nose to the ground. The ground beneath our feet is home to a menagerie of mysterious creatures. But the weird life forms in our next story had people unable to make heads or tails of what it was they were actually looking at. In 2024, a mysterious video appeared online that shows a group of workers from an unknown location digging several feet down into muddy terrain and revealing something truly strange buried under the Earth's surface. We see what appear to be dozens of strange, hairless creatures stacked neatly on top of each other in rows. They sit motionless, small limbs dangling in what many have described as a burial ground. However, as the workers keep shoveling, we suddenly start to see movement. Many questioned if there may have been some human assistance in constructing this living tomb.
What's highly unusual about these animals is that they appear to be stacked in a very symmetrical pattern, almost the exact same distance apart. So it seems to imply more of an artificial placement as opposed to any type of natural formation that we would expect to see. But animals will sometimes follow in line and replicate other behaviors that are being displayed around them. And this may be what we're looking at here.
These curious critters are also equipped with some recognizable features.
Their small, plump bodies actually remind me of something called tardigrades. Tardigrades are microscopic animals, only about 1.5 millimeters in length. And typically they have 4 sets of legs with little claws attached, and they've adapted to some of the most extreme environments on Earth. Is it possible that a gigantic subterranean species of tardigrade may have evolved?
Tardigrades are also called water bears, and before you dismiss the idea of a new species, consider this. While the location of this video is still unknown, online rumors suggest it originates from China, not far from a recently discovered cave that was home to a bunch of undiscovered species.
So just south of China, in the dense jungles of Vietnam, a new cave system has been discovered, and it contains its own unique habitat and biome. So far, scientists have discovered at least 7 new species, including new types of fish, woodlice, millipedes, spiders, and scorpions.
Not only are these types of discoveries emerging from underground, they're also emerging from deep in the past.
Recently, Canadian scientists actually discovered nematodes, or roundworms, in the Siberian permafrost that were still alive after 46,000 years. Could we be looking at some type of ancient permafrost species that has been frozen in time?
Regular viewers, and do we love you, will remember prior mentions of other strange creatures thawed from the permafrost. The cave lion cub named Sparta, about 28,000 years old, was just one of them. Could these tiny critters be the next wave of Paleolithic babies melting to the surface? Let's see what our experts think. Our biologists aren't convinced that this could be some overgrown tardigrade.
Tardigrades actually lack specialized respiratory systems, which means they rely on diffusion to obtain oxygen. A larger body size would require a more complex system to distribute oxygen for them to actually grow.
If it's a no on giant tardigrades, could these specimens be an undocumented species uncovered by changing climates?
It's not uncommon to hear of situations where the ground starts to defrost or melt and new species or extinct animals are then found. But here it doesn't really make sense timeline-wise for that to work out. These guys are very close to the surface from at least what I can see. And in the condition they're in right now, they probably wouldn't remain frozen. We probably would have seen the decaying process start already.
According to our experts, the identity of these creatures becomes clear when isolating their subtle movements.
When you focus on the areas that are moving, you can see the legs, the tail, you can see the shell overcoming the top of it. It starts to become clear that we're actually looking at the backside of a soft-shell turtle. Turtles do have a form of hibernation called brumation, where they will bury themselves deep in the mud when it becomes too cold, and their body temperature will slow down so much that they don't require much energy.
But if that's the case, how can we explain this perfectly formed cluster? Could turtles really stack themselves like this?
They're not going to be densely packed like this, especially one on top of each other. You would expect the pattern to be much more haphazard. It's likely that these harvesters have buried these turtles temporarily to keep them alive, and now they're redigging them to sell them, and that's what we're seeing in this video.
Our verdict? What we're seeing here is not a new or ancient species, but a group of turtles in brumation. Fun fact, brumation is different from hibernation in that animals that hibernate, like bears, are typically fully dormant, while animals that brumate still wake up periodically to sun themselves and even drink water. And that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to keep those cameras rolling.